Hello there, Charlie here. Wondering how your English pronunciation is going these days? Because if you want to speak more clearly and confidently to reduce those awkward moments where people respond with a, "Sorry, what was that? Pardon?" Or, "Can you repeat that, please?" Then I've got just the thing. I've put together some phonetic pangrams that will help you master all the sounds of British English, and they're completely free. Click the link in the show notes that says Improve My Pronunciation, or head to thebritishenglishpodcast.com/improve my pronunciation. Here's to a clearer, more confident you.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the British English Podcast, the show that helps you understand British culture while also exposing you to intermediate to advanced British English native expressions along the way with me, your host, Charlie. And in this one, we're going to need to pack our bags and venture north to a land beyond even Hadrian's Wall, to the heart of the Highlands in Scotland, just southeast of Inverness, to a body of water called Loch Ness. Now, if those 2 words mean nothing to you, then you'll want to stay tuned to this episode, because if you just mention those 2 words, or as they each contain just 1 syllable, if you simply make those 2 sounds in English, that will conjure a very specific image for pretty much everyone across the UK, because it was instilled in us all from an early age to read all about a certain something that might be living in this body of water in Scotland. Something that might well just be folklore, yet somehow still manages to make us question reality as we know it, even as adults. And that is the Loch Ness Monster. That's right, a monster may exist in the murky waters of Loch Ness. And before I read an example line or 2 from a children's book to help you understand what we're up against, to be super clear, the word loch, L-O-C-H, comes from Scottish Gaelic, meaning simply lake, and Ness is just the name they gave it, so think of this as Lake Ness. Okay, back to what we read as children. One line reads, "Just below the surface, I then made out a shape. It was thick in the middle and tapered towards the extremities. It was a sort of blackish grey in colour. Its size, judging from the width of the leat, was between 40 and 45 feet long." I didn't know that word, leat. I don't think you need to know it, but it's a narrow, man-made channel dug to carry water from a river to a mill. It helps turn the mill's water wheel. And 40 to 45 feet long is 12 to 14 meters long, okay? And then we have another book describing the Loch Ness Monster like so. "It hatches into a tiny grey-green creature with a horse's head, 4 flippers, and a crocodile's tail." Although, to be honest, I remember a more cartoon-like version of this monster, where it was actually made of tractor tyres floating in the water, like a really big tractor tyre, a medium one, and a small one. And I think I found that line I must have read in school. It goes, "Tonight, they'd be creating a most convincing monster out of tyres, stones, and a rather suspiciously long length of rope." which means I was probably encouraged to question the validity of this monster at a young age, right? But even so, it's one of those myths that British people love to keep alive. So yes, when a Brit hears the words Loch Ness, we think of this huge monster that may be real and yes, may lurk in the murky waters of Loch Ness in Scotland, nicknamed Nessie. Surprisingly friendly sounding nickname, I'd say, for a monster. And I was reminded of this cultural belief that all Brits get taught at a young age when listening to a book called Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. But when it used that as a cultural reference without really stopping to explain it, it made me stop to think how none of you listening, or maybe very few of you listening to this, know about the Loch Ness Monster. And yet I'd be very surprised if I found a native speaker who hasn't heard of this. Actually, let me see. Okay. So only 2% of 4,000 people who were surveyed by the government had never heard of this monster before. And people say we're wasting the taxpayers' money. The government did this survey. That is hilarious. I've actually got some more to discuss on this topic with government spending, but I'll get to that later. So yes, of that 98%, my goodness, 15% actually believe in this guy or gal monster, Nessie. It's a female name, isn't it? Nessie. It sounds feminine. So the population of the UK is currently around 67 million. Remove the 2% down to around about 65-ish. Then 15% of that is just under 10 million. Oh my God. So almost 10 million people in the UK believe there is a 45-foot long, that's 13-ish meters long, horse-headed, flipper-flapping monster with a crocodile's tail in the Highlands of Scotland. And so I want to help you understand why the hell this is the case. And by the end, you'll be able to vote on whether or not you think this monster is real. Let me take a quick break from this episode to ask you if you want to speak more clearly in English, because I've got a free resource just for you. I've created a bunch of phonetic pangrams to help you practice all 44 sounds of British English in one go. So if you want to make sure people understand you the first time around instead of having that terribly uncomfortable, what was that? Then click the link in the show notes that says improve my pronunciation, or head to thebritishenglishpodcast.com/improve my pronunciation and grab these free exercises right now.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
All right, let's journey back to a time before TikTok existed, before Donald Trump was around, even before those states of America were united. We're going all the way back to 565 AD, when Saint Columba, although he's not Spanish, is an Irish missionary. Columba. Anyway, this Irish missionary was traveling through Pictish lands near what is now Loch Ness. And apparently, the saint saw a water beast advancing on a swimmer in the River Ness. Columba made the sign of the cross and commanded the creature to go back, at which point it obeyed and returned into the depths. I mean, some part the waters, others tame monsters, and I just do a podcast. It's a bit lame, innit? But not all of us will go down in history, and I'm all right with that. Although now we have social media, do we all go down in history? Anyway, another retelling notes that on the 22nd of August, 565 AD, Columba saw the monster rise high out of the water, its jaws parting as if to attack a man. Only the power of Columba's prayers and the invocation of Christ's name saved the poor fellow. And that single episode didn't just seed local legend, it recorded the first written account of a dangerous, unknown creature in these waters. It shows that the idea of a mysterious water beast here isn't a 20th century invention, but reaches right back to the early medieval world. Let's now fast forward through centuries of occasional whispers, carvings, medieval folklore, and right up to a game-changing date, May the 2nd, 1933, when the newspapers, they had a field day, because a correspondent, Alex Campbell, reported that while driving along the loch's north shore, less than a mile from Abriachan Pier, a well-known businessman and his university-educated wife were startled to see a tremendous upheaval on the loch, which previously had been as calm as the proverbial mill pond. Campbell's article appeared under the title Strange Spectacle in Loch Ness in the Inverness Courier, which I imagine is the local newspaper, with every detail painting a vivid picture. And it reads, "The creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam." Foam? So instead of a fire-breathing dragon, we have a foam, don't say farting, foam-forming monster. A foam-forming monster? That doesn't sound very good. Well, either way, it was remarkable how quickly the Courier editor, Evan Barron, seized on Campbell's eyewitness account and dubbed it a monster. And that single change, choosing monster over fish or sea creature, gave the loch a new legend. And within days, London papers dispatched reporters eager for more details. And apparently circus promoters dangled a £20,000 reward for proof of capture. That seems crazy. In today's money, that would be £2 million. I'm a bit sceptical of that fact. A circus? Perhaps I underestimate how much money is to be made in hosting a circus. Or maybe they did it fully well knowing it wasn't real and they just wanted attention. Who knows? But tourists came in coaches, rumbling up to the Highlands with all their cameras at the ready, all from that one dramatic moment on the 2nd of May, 1933. And then the very next notable modern report came in just a couple of months later in July of that year from a George Spencer, a London tailor's director, and his wife. And they were driving along the road skirting the loch's northern shore when they spotted something extraordinary about 50 yards ahead just before it ducked into the water. And I quote, "A most extraordinary form of animal, about 4 foot high and 25 feet long," so just over a metre high and about 7.5 metres long, "with a long wavy neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk. It lurched across the road toward the loch, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. I have never seen anything so like a dragon or a prehistoric animal in my life." Wow. So they supposedly saw this thing cross the road. I mean, what was it doing out of the water? Maybe like me, it struggles to wee in the water and it needed to, go across the road and do it in a bush instead. That's not what I do at a beach, by the way. I find the toilet. I'm not a monster. Gotta try stand up. So this account was printed in the Inverness Courier, the newspaper I mentioned earlier, on the 4th of August 1933. And it was this vivid eyewitness account brought more interest, and it made people really excited, perhaps. And in just 3 months, Loch Ness went from a sleepy highland loch to the epicenter of a global cryptid craze. Cryptid is a new word for me, so again, you might not need to know it, but a cryptid is an animal or being whose existence is claimed but has not been scientifically proven. So it was a global craze about sightings of weird things. But it seems that was it for the summer's sightings. Maybe Nessie was camera shy once all the cameras got up there and said, "Come on, show us your face, love." And it wasn't until the following year, on the 21st of April, when an iconic photo was published by a Dr. Robert Kenneth Wilson, who, if you're wondering, was a gynecologist. He happened to be holidaying near the loch and managed to snap a grainy image of the monster that was published on the front page of the Daily Mail. And to describe it, you could just Google it, but it shows a slender neck and tiny head skimming the surface. I don't really feel like you can get the proportions of it because there's nothing in the photo to help understand the scale of the thing. But it shows a slender neck and tiny head skimming the surface. I'd say it looks a bit like a scaled down version of the neck of one of those huge plant-eating dinosaurs. You know, the ones that are always just plodding along in dinosaur films, very innocently, just chewing the leaves of very tall trees. What's it called? Oh, okay, it's a big word. All of the dinosaur names are big, I suppose. How's it? I just tried to hear the pronunciation of it. I'm going to give it a go. Brachiosaurus. But yeah, I just tried to press play on the pronunciation of it, and it actually played the sound they think it makes. A very deep, bassy growl. So imagine that thing, if you can, scaled down and submerged in water, and then half its neck is poking out along with its head. And this photo, almost overnight, became the definitive proof of Nessie's existence, later dubbed the surgeon's photograph. The surgeon's photograph. He's a gynecologist. Do they do surgeries? I thought they just did pap smears. Smear tests. Is a smear test a surgery? Oh, okay. Very naive of me. They do a bunch of surgeries, from hysterectomies to the removal of ovarian cysts. Moving on. So the surgeon's photograph went viral, and for nearly 6 decades, enthusiasts treated the photo as gospel. Monster hunters pored over every pixel, convinced they'd glimpsed a plesiosaur. What the hell is a plesiosaur? Oh, it's a bit like a sea-swimming version of the big plant-eating dinosaur I mentioned earlier. Maybe imagine the offspring of a whale and a brachiosaurus, or as Google pronounces it, a whale-like big dinosaur that swims. But in November 1993, this is a big moment. So in November 1993, so this is 60 years on his deathbed at the age of 89, a man called Christian Sperling confessed the whole thing was a prank. He said that he had fashioned a neck and head out of plastic wood, affixed it to a toy submarine, and slipped it into the loch undercover. Meaning the doctor wasn't in on it, right? He was duped into thinking he had taken a real photo of the Loch Ness Monster. God, he would have been annoyed, wouldn't he? Claiming for 60 years, if he's still alive at this point, if he's still, not retired. He would have been miffed by that, wouldn't he? God, what, that photo? Yeah, that was me. Took a photo of the Loch Ness Monster, didn't I? and then he realizes he was duped by a couple of men. And so it turns out that a guy called Marmaduke Wetherell was the real brains behind the hoax, because his motive was to embarrass the Daily Mail, one of our popular newspapers, because he was ridiculed for making some fake footprints. Let me do some digging on that.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
So after that active summer of sightings in 1933, the Daily Mail hired a big game hunter called Marmaduke Wetherell to, quote-unquote, get Nessie on camera. And during his shoreline search, Wetherell reported discovering a series of large, three-toed footprints leading into the water. And he sent casts of these prints off for expert analysis, only to be publicly told they were not animal tracks at all, but impressions made by this metal umbrella stand made of a hippopotamus foot. You could probably work it out if you know what a hippopotamus is, but you could just Google it. It's very strange. Just imagine an empty hippopotamus leg, but the foot bit of it. And people apparently used to put umbrellas in this. I've never heard of this. This is not a thing that modern day Brits do. But maybe he got this thinking this would be a great sort of foot size to make fake footprints. I guess that's exactly what he thought. But it did say metal there, so I don't feel like it's leaving a hippopotamus legless or with only 3 legs. So we're good, we're fine. Surely that never happened. Let's be ignorant to the disgustingness of the world. So embarrassed by the blunder, the Daily Mail dismissed this guy, which prompted him to engineer the more famous surgeon's photograph hoax the following year as an act of revenge. So to summarize, this big game hunter was employed by the Daily Mail. He thought he could get away with faking a footprint. He got caught out. They fired him. And then he wanted revenge on the Daily Mail. So he tried to embarrass them by creating a fake Loch Ness Monster and letting any tourist nearby take a photo of this fake little monster. And that's where the gynecologist doctor steps in, takes a photo of what he thinks is a real Loch Ness Monster, sends it in, the Daily Mail distribute it, and then, why would he not come clean when they've distributed it? Wow, okay, so Wetherell, this monster hunter, didn't immediately want to admit the photo was fake because the greater point of the hoax was to inflict maximum embarrassment on the Daily Mail. So he wanted to wait until everyone took this as granted, I guess, and then expose it with a rival newspaper that would really make the Daily Mail very embarrassed, I guess. But unfortunately, he died. He died in 1939, so 6 years or 5 to 6 years later. So maybe he thought he would do it soon, but then he died. How old was he when he died? He was 55. Yeah, so maybe back then he thought he still had a few more years. Either way, it's still funny how we really are our worst enemy, aren't we? You know, humans toying with other humans' imaginations. I mean, we're the monsters, aren't we? But I love that man that, exposed the secret on his deathbed in the 90s he was alive through these investigations. I mean, he even saw Cambridge and Birmingham University waste time and money on expeditions up there, testing underwater sensing technology to see if they could detect the Loch Ness Monster. And there was even a Loch Ness Investigation Bureau founded by local landowners and monster hunters. The LNIB, the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau, pooled funding to run shore-based and mobile sonar gates across the loch. Then in 1987, Operation Deep Scan was launched. And this is where I mentioned taxpayers' money being spent at the beginning of the episode. This Operation Deep Scan cost a cheeky million, and was essentially funded by taxpayers. So we could say it was an expensive hoax, but with $1 million invested into this Operation Deep Scan, they did this deep scan of the water by enlisting 20 boats equipped with echo sounders to form a moving sonar curtain across the entire 23-mile length of the water. 23 miles is quite a long way, isn't it? And what did they find? They found that most of the things detected proved to be fixed objects, but a few echoes vanished on resurvey, sparking fresh debate over whether they'd glimpsed something biological at depth. But even after the hoax was outed in the 90s, because Operation Deep Scan was in the late 80s, so the hoax was outed in the 90s, but we couldn't let it go. And after decades of sonar sweeps and camera drops came the most high-tech hunt yet, the 2018 Environmental DNA Survey. That just doesn't have the same ring to it as Operation Deep Scan, does it? It's more like the 2018 Environmental DNA Survey. But yes, scientists from Otago, Copenhagen, Hull, and the University of the Highlands, goodness me, so many places, collected hundreds of water samples, then sequenced every trace of DNA they could find, and the verdict? There is a very significant amount of eel DNA. Eels are very plentiful in Loch Ness, with eel DNA found at pretty much every location sampled. Therefore, we cannot discount the possibility that what people see and believe is the Loch Ness Monster might be a giant eel. Oh, so no dinosaur, no plesiosaur, no brachiosaurus, not even otter or seal DNA. Just eels, and more eels. So here we are, over 1,500 years after St. Columba's sighting of a water beast, nearly 90 years since that first 1933 headline, a couple of hoaxes, decades of sonar and DNA scanning later, and what remains? A murky legend, persistent folklore, or maybe just a few oversized eels. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Have I been too cynical in my approach? Is it entirely plausible that in those shadowy depths, something still swims beyond our understanding? I will be discussing this with my Academy members, and for those on Spotify, I'll make a poll for you to vote on regarding Nessie's existence being monstrous or simply really eely, an eel, being an eel. Either way, you now know about the Loch Ness Monster. So you can go to bed knowing that monsters aren't under your bed, unless you live in or near Inverness in Scotland. But yes, until next time, I've been Charlie, host of the British English Podcast. Bye-bye. Before you go, a quick reminder, if you want to improve your English pronunciation, check out the free phonetic pangrams I've put together for you. It's a great way to practice all the sounds of British English and be understood the first time, every time. Just click the link in the show notes that says Improve My Pronunciation, or head to thebritishenglishpodcast.com/improve my pronunciation and start working on it today. Here's to putting an end to the great, epidemic.